Bill Burr and I are just going to talk to you about how we've all been lied to.
Why does that sound so dumb to me? I don't know. You know what it is? I think it's because I heard their story when I was an adult. I heard my story when I was like 4 years old, right? When I heard my story, there was still some fat fuck coming down the chimney giving me Christmas toys. If I lost a tooth, there was a fairy. There was an Easter bunny. Why wouldn't there be some bearded baby moonwalking across the lake? Throwing out bottomless buckets of shrimp or whatever he did. Of course that made sense. But what happened was, as I got older, all of that stuff started to fall, right? Like, son, there's no fat fuck, it's your mother and I. Your mom's the tooth fairy, rabbits don't have eggs, her tits are fake, the NBA's fixed, bankers are cunts. Most of your dreams won't come true, right?
So, education, how can we teach our children? I feel that the public school system is kind of like a modality to segregate the family, the parents from the children. You have the children over here, they're bussed away by the state. And that's kind of the way that I see it. It's a way to steal your children any day of the week if we want to, as the government, and the parents can do nothing about it because they're in concentration camps or whatever. The way that I look at public school is it's kind of a power move that is there for the taking anytime the government wants it, and your children will be doing mundane tasks, repetitious math problems, and they will all be moving by the bell. That the entire school is built by the same architects who build the prisons. You see what I'm saying? It's just really funny. I would rather have a school system that is done by the parents, where it's really more promoting homeschooling and empowering homeschool parents to do a better job and educate their kids better at home with their kids, because I feel that bond with their children is important. I think having a strong family before anything else is really our priority at this point, when we see how American families become so atomized. And we're lied to about how our careers are more important than being together as couples, and that money and status is more important than our relationships, that hypergamy is better than long-term relationships, that hospitals make you better with the pills that kill you, and the microwave oven, when it adds new chemicals to the food, we expect that to make the patients better. That 20 to 40 drugs in the water supply is not a big deal. That hydrofluorosilicic acid in the public water is safe when it eats through anything. That laser beam arson is climate change. That we live in the land of the free when there is this mandatory vaccine with 9 ingredients that should not be in the human body. That bigger rockets are better than launching from high altitude. That we haven't overfished the ocean. That we have another planet to go to. Or politicians know how to allocate money for the homeless. That talking about Republicans and Democrats makes you sound smart, when any adult would understand I started a noocracy republic 8 years ago, ruled by intelligence. The lie thinking that nations are a good thing in the long run thinking that the world is ruled by force and not intellect, thinking nationalism is rational when polarization breeds conflict, that internet connectivity is going to make things more harmonious when the world is made up of extremely diverse cultures, that I can bring things to order with a united world military, that an asteroid is not going to slip past Jupiter and destroy the world, or that we can actually stop it. The lie that we aren't going to die in the next ice age, or that we can just keep rebuilding our houses the same way after we've seen the hurricane maps, that oil spills are not a problem for the environment, the lie that nuclear is safe and green, the lie that the American people understand their own government, that they understand the U.S. Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. That's the main reason I started a new country, You have to. It's your duty. Jefferson would be like, yes, it's your right to start a new country if they don't understand basic rights. If the government doesn't even understand that you should have your child at term, that if the government doesn't understand blowing your brains out in broad daylight is bad when representing the government, that execution is bad. See, as long as governments around the world don't understand basic rights, the foundation of the U.S. government, it's going to continue this dehumanization, the big lie, right? So we lie thinking that punishing people is going to benefit society, and that's just cruelty under the Eighth Amendment. So you have these people who don't understand, from the justice system, the presidents, the governors, no one understands the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. And the big lie is that they do. They'll be on television looking prestigious and they don't even understand their own shit. So America is going to be handing out the Medal of Freedom after I started a new country on the West Coast. And they're going to still act like America still exists no matter what I do. And my entire existence is omitted from the history books. And that's the game that they're trying to play. The world's smartest man can be omitted if it doesn't suit national interests. But here's the Medal of Freedom guy, right before the big COVID pandemic, before the most tyrannical overreach in U.S. history, where they are mandating a cocktail of poison for troops who are fighting for freedom. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. You have a system of punishment instead of a system of reward. And we just have to grow out of it. We have to grow out of nationalism. We have to consolidate all military leadership. We have to be good stewards of the world in the face of a corporatocracy that could care less if it pollutes every last nook and cranny of the world. You have to stand up for the human race and life on Earth at some point, collectively, beyond race wars, beyond any kind of polarization, NATO and SCO nations, what have you. You cannot allow fools to blunder on the stage. Do you see? You have to have the hook when you have the Joker play too long to pull him off stage sometimes. And here is the noocracy saying that all nations are irrational, that they're not listening to the individual, that freedom of speech is being curtailed because of actual wokeness. Because nations will lose their power. Knowledge is power. Do you see? So that's how I got my power. It wasn't from wealth. It wasn't from money, monetary wealth. With that, I just envision that I already have the money. Do you see? That's what we should all do. Just envision that you already have it. If your ideas are good enough, if you're an innovator, that's all that really matters. Do you have the ideas to move humanity into the future? It would be the big lie to have consumers run the show and have the innovators slept on. Do you see? So if you focus on politicians of any sort, any of them across the world, anyone that is not me right now, you're distracting yourselves as humanity, because the human race has not had focus yet. We have not had a global focus together on the same day, a Martin Luther King type event where everybody actually listens. And that's our problem. We have a lot of people talking, but the world doesn't stop to listen to one voice. The big lie is that having too many cooks in the kitchen is going to solve things. That your UN Security Council is going to be adulting in our modern era. You have to listen to one person talk. And the idea of building a noocracy, or a proper noocracy, is when all of the human race, all of humanity, contributes their intellects to the representative with the most pertinent information, so that I can have the highest situational awareness to make the best decisions. So science is always evolving, and all the highest minds will have a student mentality, constantly learning. The big lie is when a know-it-all is telling you how things work. To be a global science representative, you have to understand that the science is always changing and evolving and getting better and better. When you have this multitude of representatives, it is ripe for corruption, and you just have to view all of them as corrupted by lobbyists for corporate interests. So all of what is important, what is moral, what is right for the people is pushed aside for corporate interests. And that is the former US government. The big lie is to assume that it still exists after I started a new government, after I made it a one nation continent. The big lie is to think that I am anything less than king of the continent. The big lie is that I am just some kind of grandiose narcissist at the pinnacle of human psychology. That would be the case if you don't have a better way of doing things. So if you have a better way of doing everything that makes you important, I'm the most important person. Perhaps I'm self-important. Aren't we all? And shouldn't we be? Don't you think that self-preservation is a good thing? Why we have an ego at all when we are scorched with fire? We want to preserve our body. So, in the spirit of self-preservation, knowing that being alone is the highest cause for mortality. See, I could just keel over the last 2 years with the heart attack, and no one would be there to do CPR or whatever. My girlfriend wouldn't exist. There's no one that loves me. And that's the other big lie, is that women love you. Not really. I would say that I've never seen a woman love a man yet. I think maybe in my grandparents' generation, but my entire life, I've, in a really honest way, I know that I've never been loved by a woman. Or why would I be alone right now? See? They all have their reason for breaking up with you. It's just trivial. Love to a woman is trivial. They don't go very deep into what love is. And their love is flighty. A woman is fickle, my dad said. And I truly believe that. They're kind of confused, and they're not as content as I am. I feel that women have higher anxiety and higher discontent, less inner happiness, and I would try to teach women that happiness comes from within. That it doesn't come from all these external things that you were trying to fill that hole with. The big lie, though, is to continue the charade that women actually love men at all, that women know what love is yet, and it sounds arrogant or chauvinistic, but I don't really care. I've been alone for 2 years in my monk mode, and I will tell you the truth and the big lies. Women don't know what love is yet. We have to give them a chance, right? Because they used to a few generations back. And I know that. And I can see there are maybe a few exceptions out there, of course, but how rare they are. They must be a diamond in the rough in our modern society. In the new hookup culture, all relationships are vulnerable to weakness, the weakness of women, and the weakness of a woman's lust. The weakness of a woman's longevity regarding relationships. And they are really what is behind cancel culture, I would feel, in the end. A woman, your average woman, and it's a really sad thing. I think it's sad that they care more about themselves than the children that they raise. And it's very obvious to me that that's the case. The big lie is to continue fishing and assuming that your fish is not going to be contaminated with dioxins, etc., PCBs, that we aren't contaminating the environment in one way or another on a continuous basis, that the Pacific garbage patch is shrinking instead of growing. I think that the big lie is that we have self-control and that we have control over the planet. We all know that nations want to keep control, and that traditionally they are a benefit to society until they do things like turn a blind eye towards the environment or to genocide. Or containments. Our focus should be family and health, relationships over money. We should disband our greed and our desire to own things so much. We want to own everything. And if you look at Cascadia and the rise of Chief Seattle philosophy, that we don't own the land, that we all share the land, I think you'll see the right path to take. We put up all these barbed wire fences when we should really have our animals roam freely. Perhaps we ourselves at times should be nomads. When there is flooding, when there is severe weather, we should be used to it. Our ability to adapt to nature is the key to our survival. How we change our architecture to cope with severe weather and temperatures. Our ability to make contact with extraterrestrials could be the key to our survival in the long run. If we can't make contact, we're in a bad way regarding interstellar travel. So it's important that we come together as a planet and try to make contact. That's important. It's important that we be good stewards of the planet, and leadership is important, and to think otherwise is a big lie.